All right. Good evening, everyone. It's a wonderful time again, right? And tonight's session is going to be a wonderful session, right? We'll be talking about a major important topic this night, and I am very sure that you will gain value from tonight's class, right? My name is Solomon Ibu, a real estate professional based here in the city of Asaba, Delta State, the oil city. Right? When we're talking about cities in Nigeria that are emerging when it comes to real estate, Asaba is the fourth emerging city after Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt. Then you have Asaba there. So Asaba is very important in the scheme of things, right? Now, so tonight, actually, we'll be talking about a very important topic, and this live is specifically for 30 years and below 30 years. If you know you're a young Nigerian or a young African, you're 30 years or below 30 years, then this live session is for you. Now, we'll be talking about a very important topic, right? Three money mistakes to avoid this second half of the year. Three money mistakes you should avoid the second half of the year. Now, we are in June, almost approaching the second half of the year, right? Going into July. Now, you need to ask yourself, how has the first 6 months of 2026 been? You have to be very sincere with yourself, right? Starting this year, you had a lot of goals, aspirations, resolutions on how you're going to, start up the year, how you're going to plan, and execute as the year goes by, right? And funny enough, this is the second quarter of the year. And the second quarter of the year is gradually winding up, right? Now, I know you have sat down, and you have done an appraisal of how the first 2 quarters of the year went. It's very important. It's very, very important that you do an appraisal. Now, going into the second quarter of the year, there are three mistakes personally I don't want to do in the second part of the year. And I want you also to look at this and also ensure that you don't make these mistakes going into the second half of the year. Now, the first mistake I wouldn't want you to make going into the second half of 2026 is spending without a plan. Now, if you're a youth, come closer because this live session tonight is for you strictly. Now, ensure that you don't spend without a plan. A lot of youths, young guys, young ladies, they are working, they are actively working, making ends meet, earning salaries, some earning wages, but you know, as the money is coming, they realize that they are actually spending a whole lot. The money is coming and then it's being spent. And it bothers me a lot, and especially personally, right? And especially if you are a married man or a married man, it should bother you a whole lot that you should spend with a plan. Now, going into the second quarter of 2026, you should not spend without a plan. Now, if you're a salary earner, I expect you, what you should do is to plan your income. Plan how your income, as your income is coming, ensure that you plan it. Now, not all of your income is for spending. Ensure that you have a laid down plan that you follow strictly. Now, this is what I did in the first part of the year that helped me a bit, right? Now, as the money is coming at the end of the year, I remove a chunk of it and put in a fixed deposit account, right? Or you put it in a fixed savings account that no matter what, you can't touch it. That way, it will help you become disciplined. It will help you become disciplined in spending your money. So ensure that going into the second half of 2026, you don't spend without a plan. I bet you if you spend without a plan in the second half of the year, especially this second half of the year that we are going to, the Mba season, you'll regret it. Trust me. So you have to spend with a plan. Ensure that there's a plan on ground for you to spend in the second half of the year. Now, the second mistake I want you to avoid going into the second half of the year is delaying investment. Delaying investment. Now, This is it, right? For young guys, we feel we still have time, especially below 30s. We feel we still have time. There's still time for us to experiment. You know, now that the energy is there, the ability to make money is there. A lot of young people are thinking that okay, this time is a time to just spend, enjoy yourselves, and maybe when I get to 40, 50 years, I'll start planning. But that is not the reality of life, right? Now that you still have, the energy, the strength, the capability to work, to earn a living, ensure that as investments, you are not in investments, right? Like one of those notable investments is real estate. Ensure that, aside other investments, that you have your major investment should be in real estate, right? Now, it is called the real estate for a reason because it is the only real business on earth. In one of my videos on my YouTube channel, I explained something. I said real estate is the first business on earth. Real estate is the first business on earth, and God was the first realtor, the first real estate investor, the first real estate consultant on earth was God. Now, God gave these gifts, these precious gifts to mankind. Now, the original blueprint of real estate as designed by God is that every man, every human being should partake of real estate, right? Every human being should get involved. Yes, that's the right word. Every human being should get involved in real estate, either directly or indirectly, right? Let me digress a bit. Now, you might be asking, how do I get into real estate directly? Now, you're getting into real estate directly is that, you know, you get into investing in real estate directly, buying properties, right? Buying either low ticket, mid range, or high ticket properties, you buy them. Now, getting into real estate indirectly is that, you become a real estate consultant or a realtor, you sell properties to people, and then at the end, as the money is coming, you start investing in properties. So, as a young man, as a young woman, ensure that going into the second quarter of the year, you will take, you know, this second part of the year very serious by, arranging your investments, get involved, right? Ensure that as the money is coming in, as your income is coming in, a chunk of it is removed and is tagged for investment. Now, if you're 30 years or below 30 years, I guess a lot of us are actually preparing for marriage right now. Now, this is the time for you to start planning your investments. You start planning the investment for yourself. You start planning investment for your kids. So ensure that you don't delay investment. Don't say, I'm still young, let me enjoy the money I'm making a bit. And then when I grow, 40, 50, I start investing. It might be too late then. It might be too late. In real estate, we say the best time to buy a property was 10 years ago. The second best time is now. Now, trust me, if you miss the offers that are available to you right now, coming back again, those offers will not be available to you. So you have lost out totally, completely from offers or opportunities that would have made you wealthy. So stop delaying investment. Avoid it by all means in the second quarter of the year. Now, last but not the least is avoid this mistake. Number 3 is focusing only on income but ignoring assets. Ensure that in as much as yes, you are focusing on making money, that you don't ignore building assets. Ensure that as you're focusing on making income for those that are working, earning salaries at the end of the month, you're putting in energy, making money at the end of the month. Ensure that you don't ignore assets. Now, one of those assets is real estate assets, right? Buying properties, and you mustn't break the bank. You mustn't break the bank to start investing in real estate. I always tell first-time land buyers that you don't need to go and you don't need to break the bank. Currently in Asaba, with as low as 950,000, you can start your land acquisition journey. You don't have 950,000 naira. You can start with a deposit of 500,000 naira. So once you pay the 500,000 naira, automatically you become a landlord, and we give you 2 months, without interest to pay up. So you are relaxed. There's no much pressure on you, right? You pay up within that 2 months, right? So you don't need to, break the bank. You don't need to crack your head on how do I go about it. Yes, a lot of us have lost out on investment in major cities like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and even Asaba. So currently, right now, you can't even get, a buy and build property in the heart of Asaba for 10 million naira. That's how, bad it is right now, because the demand for land is increasing day by day. I tell people this: in Asaba right now, the number of people that are looking for shelter is even more than the available shelter right now. So you can see that the demand is ever increasing, ever increasing. Now, what does it tell you? That you should go to the locations that people have not started going to yet. Buy lands and wait for them. They will surely get there. One of those locations is Abaono. Another location in Delta State that the government now is working towards is Olodu. Now, these locations have notable landmarks like the Admiralty University. We have the Sostar College of Nursing Sciences. We have the present deputy governor's farm there. You can buy land there right now at 950,000 naira, and you leave it for the next 5 to 10 years. And I bet you, for real, right? For real, that location is going to boom in the next 5 to 10 years. So ensure that you're making money, you're making income. You do not skip building assets. Now, I want you to do this, right? Sit down this night. Sit down with your pen and your paper. Write down these things I've said, and ensure that you start up a plan tonight as we move into the second quarter or the second half of the year, right? Write down your to-do list from July to December 2026, what you are going to start doing, right? As the money is coming in, how you're starting to save and how you're going to start to invest. It is very, very important. In fact, it is key that you do these things. Now, 2 things that young people neglect the most, and that's just like the bedrock of your life, is that a lot of persons don't save, a lot of persons don't invest. If you don't save, you don't have any legal grounds to invest except you want to steal. But savings help you, to have a base for investment. So ensure that you take your saving culture very seriously so that you can invest wisely now that you're young, and also invest, for the generations to come, sooner, as we plan to, raise families and all that. So I'll run down the 3 mistakes that you should avoid this second half of the year again before we call it a night. Now, the first mistake I talked on is spending without a plan. Ensure that this second half of the year you don't spend without a plan. Number 2 mistake you should avoid this second half of the year is delaying investment. Ensure, by all means, do not delay investment, especially when you see investments that you are very certain that this investment is right, is genuine, is verifiable. You don't miss out on those offers, because those offers they are offers of a lifetime. If you miss them right now, you might not get to see them again. So ensure that you don't delay investment. And lastly, on focusing on only income but ignoring assets. Please avoid these mistakes by all means this second half of the year. And I want to assure you that if you take into cognizance of these things that I've said right now, you start planning tonight, that your second half of 2026 will be far more greater than the first half. Now, with joy in my heart, I want to say this. And as we wind up into the weekend, I want to really wish you, a lovely weekend. And I hope that you take these things into consideration and you start planning from the weekend how to avoid these mistakes. Right? I'll be waiting for you in my DM, on my WhatsApp. My number is boldly written on my channel, 081. If you're with pen and paper, you want to get my number, 081 384 38182. I'll go again, 081 384 38182. My name is Solomon Ibu, professional real estate consultant based here in the city of Asaba. And I'll come your way again on live tomorrow morning so we can talk about another interesting topic. I hope you gain value. Send me a DM right now, or send me or call me. You know, let's talk. Let's talk. Let me guide you as a young man, as a young lady, on how to make tangible investments for yourself. See you tomorrow morning. Bye bye.